Yeah, I was told that you're interested in Austrian art. You know a lot of Austrian artists. Is it true? Tell me about this. You love them?
Yeah.
Have you ever met any Austrian artist? Do you know any Austrian artist personally? Do you have friends here? Im Mikro sitzen, setze ich
Ah,
irgendwie
es ist
schier.
schon okay. Du wirst nachher auch so da sitzen, denke ich. Gell? Ja. Ich glaube, du schaust ein bisschen zu tief.
Hm.
Und der große Ernste.
Bedanke dich.
Wir danken für das Gespräch.
There we go. Hello. Hi, this is Freddie. Hi. Klaus. Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How do you do? Sorry. Hi.
Where's David sitting again?
Hi. There. On the way. On the way.
Ja, Gott sei Dank.
Ja.
Die sollen sich in einer Stunde 10 noch sehen.
That's nice.
Ever since you saw the show, even happier. Yes. Here we go. David, this is Klaus.
Hello.
Klaus.
TV Journal.
Hello. How are you?
Do you want to have a seat here?
Sure. Where do you want me? Please here.
Here.
And this one? This one, please. You've been to Prague yesterday?
There in late 89, 90 to cover the changeover in government and everything. So they saw it probably in its most recent, most exciting time.
I think it was there maybe 1 year before the Iron Curtain was falling down.
Yes.
It was completely different. now.
Yes. Well, when you were there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
there before.
Oh, sure. Was it after Havel went to prison, or because he went in? When did he go in? 1979. 79 to 84, wasn't it?
I think it was there in 1988 or
Aha.
87,
Yeah.
I'm not sure now.
Yeah. No, that was a quite tough time, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, we're fine.
You know, Gorbachev when he went there, they asked him what was the difference between Glasnost and the Prague Spring. And he said, 20 years. He could have done stand-up.
David, what our viewers from the US probably will interest most is your relationship to Austria. Do you have a special relationship with Austria, with Vienna, with an Austrian artist?
I guess there are several tenuous links. When I was a kid, I liked very much expressionism, and I had quite an admiration for the Blaulitte group, specifically them. And of course, Egon Schiller and Klimt and whatever. So by definition, as an artist, I had some emotional ties to the kind of art that was made in Austria at one particular time. More recently, I got to know an entrepreneur come artist called Andre Heller, who sort of had strong links with the Guggen Hospital here. Some of them, in fact, are here tonight. They've come to see the show. Some of them have never been to a rock show before, so I'm sure it'll be an extraordinary thing for them to see.
So was this an experience which was inspiring?
Yeah, it was very much. When Eno and I decided to start working together, we thought we'd work at a kind of a diary level. And a lot of things have been going through our minds about, especially visually, about what had been happening in the late 20th century. And people like Nietzsche came up, and the outsider genre of painting. Most specifically, a museum that I know very well called La Butte in Lausanne, in Geneva, in Switzerland, which I've been going to for quite a few years. It's a source of inspiration. And then Brian told me about Google, so we went to see that.
But you have named Nietzsche here. This is the Austrian painter Nietzsche. And you know about Schwarzkogler as well, because
yes.
people said it's...
oh yes, Schwarzkogler, yes, he's...
What do you think of him?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's probably one of the most radical of the artists that I knew. I was trying to pinpoint a tradition of ritualizing of the body. And I kind of pinned... Well, I suppose the semi-nihilistic equation that one could draw, and also surreal, came with André Breton at the beginning of the century. He made a remark, was part of his manifesto, that a great work of art could be going into the streets and shooting into a crowd with a revolver. And that, I think, was almost as potent as an image as Duchamp's urinal, I guess, a verbal image. And subsequent to that, there have been so many people who've become interior in their work and regarded the body as almost a ritualistic way of articulating the 20th century experience. But I mean, I guess it has its antecedents in people like Thomas de Quincey in the late 19th century, who wrote things like fine art considered, murder is considered as a fine art, which was an essay he wrote later.
There's also an art competition going on.
Yes.
And can you tell me about this?
I think the idea was to give some brave young artists the chance to have to make evident their own expression of what they think of the storyline and the characters, and sort of their own interpretation of what Brian and I had done.
So what is it what Brian and you are doing now? Is it the same as it was, or just continuing?
Well, hopefully neither of us have a very strong idea, because there's nothing worse than being in a cul-de-sac. I'd like very much to think that it'll be open-ended right the way through. We want to evolve it into maybe 4 or 5 albums, this being the first, which would take us through to 1990. And there is, I think, quite a lot of talk of maybe putting it together as a formal stage presentation with Robert Wilson in the year 2000. So I've been approached, in fact, by the committee of the Salzburg Festival to do some other work with Wilson, which I'm very excited about.
So I remember you have invented a lot of artificial characters. So who are you behind all of them?
Oh, come on. Now you're being
Are they all a
tabloidy.
part of it?
This is beneath you.
Okay.
I think, to answer it more seriously, I guess the older that I get, the more comfortable I feel in the role of author, and it's just that I find that the kind of fictional writing that I make falls into the realms of music, because it's something that I've always been associated with. But I would like to write more in terms of straight fiction, straight prose. I've started doing short stories over the last couple of years, and I enjoy the process an awful lot. I like being an author. I like creating narrative, even if it is non-linear.
But you're doing a lot of creative things. You're a painter as well, you're an actor. What is the most important thing for you?
I guess getting through a day and having an interesting insight about it is fairly important. I don't like dead days. I don't like a day that feels as though nothing as much has been accomplished. Maybe I'm semi-workaholic in that way. I love working, I love writing, and I love painting. They're all very much part of my being. I couldn't see myself really existing without doing all of them.
What do you think of, if I say artists, idols, anyone of this size, it's got some political responsibility, even influence. Do you think? Do you agree?
Well, I think probably every action that one makes is political. So I'll come that far with you. Other than that, I really do believe that the art that's created by the artist really has nothing to do with him once it's left his actual physical control. I believe that the audience's interpretation of what they see, their own reverberations between themselves and the artwork are all. That's the essential thing. But I'm sort of an old-fashioned deconstructivist that way.
I think a lot of things has changed within the last decades. So I think rock music is now part of our culture, of our life. Do you agree? What is the importance of rock music now?
I think it's probably become evidently, as a culture, it's become more and more a mainstream culture. If it had any pretensions to be a renegade or an outside kind of art form itself, I think that's gone. I think it's very much as much as literature or film or theatre, an accepted form of cultural expression. Yeah.
There are a lot of science fiction.
And because of that, probably has lost a lot of its potency in that particular way. It has, I think probably we're far too familiar with its vocabulary. And when you do get familiar with the vocabulary, it no longer points to new directions too often. So one is always striving to reform a new vocabulary, I guess.
In your pop songs, rock songs, you have always a relation with science fiction stories, science fiction characters. Do you still have that thing?
Yeah. I don't really have a fascination with science fiction. I've always used it as a premise for the lifestyle that I create fictionally. It's a point of reference, and I use the future actually as a kind of a metaphysical now. I don't really see into the future very well. I'm not a futurist. So the future for me, when I use it, is generally allegorical. In fact, I think for maybe 30 years or so, the idea of space travel and that sort of futurism was regarded as the way ahead. But now, I think that really smacks of retro. Science fiction itself is sort of retro. So maybe ideal in nostalgia now.
So I think we're at the end. Well, if you don't mind, may I have...
Sure.
No.
What? You see what I have on my car?
Oh my goodness, it's a little desperate.
Yeah, but the plate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Bye.
Alles da?
Ja, får vi videre.